If you're hourly, then you don't get it if you work less than 37.5 hours. So I just thought there's some inconsistencies.
Sure, that's right.
And those are very important to bring up, but the bottom line to all that is, when you talk about those kinds of things, if it's gonna cost person A this and cost person B this, as we go through the review of our health insurance to reach some savings, what then does that, what numbers do we plug in to make sure that we're doing the right thing for those people that we have here? So that's all I'm saying, is let's make sure we have sound decision-making processes.
Right. And the, you know, not to dodge the bullet, I'm just going to throw this one out there as a proposal, not as a proposal, but just as something I was thinking about, with the accumulation of the sick time. Now that isn't something that I'm looking at changing or proposing that we change. I know that that's something that's primarily set aside as an accumulated benefit, and you get to the 120 hours, and that's where the cap is. From the outside looking in, from a small business owner standpoint looking in, what I was looking at is, well, why don't we set that up truly as a goal toward a retirement benefit, and have that be for people who are here more longer term. So what I was looking at was slowing the rate of accumulation. What does that mean? 12 sick days a year, in my opinion, is excessive. And so I thought if just keep the cap the way it is, but just allow that accumulation to accumulate a little bit slower. So my proposal would have been 6, actually. 6, that's on top of the vacation and on top of everything else, but 6 sick days a year. So again, that was just something that was good for discussion, and that I was looking at as when I was doing my comprehensive review of the handbook. We're going into facilities needs assessment and a potential referendum. I just want to keep everything on the table as far as what we want to look at is to keep our costs in line. So for any employee that would have been in the district for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, they're already getting close to that accumulated number anyway. And so,
and that's the point where I was saying, I think when we put the numbers to all this, I think you would find that's probably a little different.
And it may be very different. And again, you have to understand the prism that I'm looking through, and that's just from the outside looking in as a small business owner. 12 sick days a year is a lot. I'm the bad guy, but I'm just throwing that out there.
We had this conversation before, and I was the one that spoke up about what you think is a limited number of sick days. Anybody can get sick. I'm sorry, I don't have more of a voice than this. Microphone? From what I've had. Okay, there we go. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, and I was the one that reacted to your comment about the limited number of sick days and limiting them even more, because I believe that anybody can get sick, and anybody can get seriously sick, regardless of age. I think we had a little difference of opinion there. I think you felt that people that are older get sick more than people that are younger. I don't believe that that is necessarily true. I think it can happen to anybody at any time, so I do take some issue with that. But beside that, I guess I have a couple of things I would like to say. When this came through the mail, and I looked at this, I thought, whoa, this is really comprehensive, and we actually did not have too many days to digest this prior to coming to this meeting. I think perhaps what we should do is, I really feel that this is putting the cart before the horse in a way. I know you have a lot of questions, and you know, you're relatively new on the board, and there are things that maybe don't make complete sense to you. We've all been there when we've been newcomers to the board. But what I'm thinking is that rather than put the cart before the horse, maybe if we develop some kind of plan where together we can look at the various sections of the handbook, because this information is all over the place. And I think if we can zero it, you know, or narrow it down to a section at a time, or sections that you find need us to take a look at, and have the board take a look at them, and then have the rest of the staff take a look at them. I mean, this affects you more than it affects us. And so I think then we would need your input in order to know how to best make a decision on this, rather than to just arbitrarily say, we're going to cut your sick days from 12 to 6, and this is being cut from this to that. I really have a problem with that.
No, I appreciate that, and I wasn't. truly didn't mean to come in and be arbitrary like that, and I agree with the, let's take a look at, over the long term with the communications and the discussions. Again, I think my word proposal was too strong, I really do. I think this is something I wanted to percolate to the surface, to get at least the board looking at it. You know, this was a very big document, and quite honestly, I don't know how much time other people took the time to review it. And so there may be some things in here that you didn't even know. Maybe you all did know it. Maybe that's just part of me being the new guy and getting to learn how this whole thing works. All I can tell you is that from the prism that I was looking through, from a small business owner coming into this new position, I thought there may be some opportunities to at least generate a discussion as to looking into next year. There's nothing in here that I said I wanted immediate. Well, I'll be honest, with the exception of paying the money to the spouse when the other spouse is on the health insurance. That I wasn't a big fan of, but it's out there, it is what it is. Other than that I felt could go into effect in January. Everything else I wasn't looking at until July. So, but I do want to say I'm very proud of the people that work in this district. I was very proud of the presentation. I don't want to come in here and just say, you know, I think this would be great, let's make everyone's life a living hell. That is absolutely not. There's some people in the room that know me. That's not what I'm about at all. I consider myself fairly reasonable, and I think, you know, we could all work through this. So this kind of, you know, maybe a little bit of a zinger to the board, I don't know. I wanted just to be very comprehensive. I have, for those of you that can't see the document, I got a page number, I got the section numbers referenced, and I have the proposals or the thoughts and ideas on here. Some of these are formatting changes, some of these are questions that Dr. Miller could answer, some of these get into the meat of some of the things we just talked about. So I mean, it took me a while to go through this. So, but I think it's a good point to generate some discussion, I guess is what I wanted to do. So that's kind of where I am.
I just want to say, can you hear me? That Dr. Paz, as a leader of the district, you know, you keep referring to other districts, and you know, that today or yesterday, you know, you inferred that you were happy that we weren't being punitive to our district. Well, to refer to it as being punitive, I just don't think that's right, because there are going to be changes. You know, we have to make changes. You're fortunate that we haven't had changes. Other districts have had changes. When we have to make changes as a board, we're not going to be punitive to you. It's just going to have to be done. The taxpayers expect changes. So when we have to, as a board, make changes, it isn't going to be punitive. And you know, if you make comments like that,
well, I stand behind that comment, because I was referring to other districts and they were punitive. They had no staff involvement. They made decisions before they had any idea what their budgets were going to be, and that our districts are going to do that now. So I stand behind that very strongly, because I don't think we're in an era now where we make cuts and everything just for the sake of making cuts.
Where did districts make cuts just for the sake of making cuts?
Give me some time to research, and I'll show you several districts who, by their own created handbooks, change sick days, personal days, wages. Some of you might be able to defend that with your colleagues.
Just for the sake of making
cuts? No, just because they could.
That's what you said.
And to me, that's punitive, yes. And so, you may disagree with my terminology. I think it's very appropriate, because I think when you do something to people, that's punitive unless you have good reason to do that. I would agree with you. Our community expects us to be fiscally responsible. We have always been fiscally responsible. We have done that through the budget process, through staffing, and every means we can. And it doesn't mean that any of these people are always going to be happy, and I understand that, and they know that.
Well, we're a year behind other districts as far as changing insurance benefits and such. So
not all districts.
Well, if I said all, I didn't mean that. Some districts, sure. But to call it punitive is, I just think that's irresponsible.
I think some of the things that will help when we do our
well, let me correct that. I don't think it's irresponsible. I think it's very appropriate, and that was an email that I had sent to all the boards so that everybody here knows. In that email to you, I gave you an indication that other districts had done some things that disrupted the staffs and the culture of their districts that have a huge negative impact. And to me, that was punitive. And I have a right to use that kind of language, Janet.
You can use
and as a leader of the district, when I inform the board on how I feel about something, I hope you want me to tell you how I feel about that. And I'm going to.
But I disagree that when we have to make changes to insurance and benefits, we're not, as a board, going to be punitive to our.
I don't think I said